The financial flow is definitely slower. I don't think there are overnight millionaires in social enterprise.
You are listening to In Good Company, a podcast that explores the lives, businesses, careers, and advocacies of people who want to create positive impact in the world.
If you're someone who's looking for inspiration, positive stories, how-tos, and opportunities to start a business or pursue a career with meaning and purpose, this podcast is for you.
And we won't just be talking about the good and inspiring stuff.
We'll be talking about the real stuff, which means that we'll get into the gritty, grimy, and yes, juicy details about trying to do good in a world where doing good is still a bit of an afterthought.
This podcast is designed to share inspiring stories, but at the same time encourage anyone. But while doing good in a big way is challenging, it is possible, and there are concrete and actionable steps to do so.
So, if you want to do good, you're in good company.
I'm Reese Fernandez-Ruiz, co-founder and president of Rags to Riches.
And I'm Tom Graham, author of the book The Genius of the Poor and co-founder of the social tourism enterprise Make a Difference Travel. And this is In Good Company. So, you love travelling, you want to create positive impact in the world, but you also need to pursue a serious career, which earns you enough money to live comfortably. For most of us, you do the serious stuff from Monday to Friday, then leave the travelling and volunteering work for the weekends, if you have time. Our guest on today's podcast is Raf Dionisio, someone who has managed to merge all of his passions into a not-so-ordinary career. Not that long ago, Raf was working the 9-to-5 in Manila, but today he's my business partner in Mad Travel, as well as the co-founder of Circle Hostel. Nowadays, he's focused on engaging with local governments, NGOs, tourists, and the Yangel tribe in Zambales to bring about the reforestation of 3,000 hectares of ancestral domains. He's also heavily involved in two other really exciting environmental initiatives, Need for Seed and the Plastic Solution. So, there's a huge amount to talk about in this episode. Let's get right to it. All right. Hey, Raf.
Hello.
Hi, Raf.
Compadre.
Tom and Reese.
Hi.
Nice to see you guys again.
Yeah. It's been so long. So, Raf, of course, I've known you. I've known Raf since my early days in the Philippines. We've had a very up and down relationship, which we can tell you more about later.
Wow.
No, mainly up.
Okay.
I'm joking on that.
I am so curious.
Yeah, no. But for our listeners out there, let's start with a little introduction to your own personal story and your personal background. You went from selling panty liners
What?
to titas to starting this amazing social tourism endeavor, working with the Aita tribe, the Yangel tribe in Zambales, and really developing and being a pioneer, I think, in social tourism here in the Philippines. So just give us a little bit of a background on that. How did you go from selling panty liners to something like this?
Do you want the short story or
The short story.
Well, yeah, selling panty liners and sanitary napkins isn't fun at all.
It isn't?
Were you any good at it?
Why?
How did you convince Tita to buy your panty liners?
Oh, that's a technical discussion. You have to explain something.
It's hard if you haven't tried it.
Exactly.
So you haven't tried it.
never.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
No, but from working in a corporate setting, and I grew up always wanting to be in a corporate setting, and then when I finally got a taste of it, I realized this isn't for me. I'd rather be outdoors. I think the experiences of working with Gawad Kalinga helped push me in that direction of community, which is where I'm at. I remember trekking to that Aita community. It was supposed to be just some random adventure, and that's when I saw the tribe is very poor, and that their environment was equally poor, so there weren't any trees in that area. To make it worse, started my trek. My 4-hour trek started at 9 in the morning, treeless Cannicash Valley, so it was just really hot. Really moved me, situation of the tribe. It just so happened that I was given the opportunity to meet different people doing reforestation down south in Mindanao, and they had the solutions that were needed by this community. Being someone who enjoys entrepreneurship, for me it was pretty logical that we have to do something about this, because I like travel, I love the environment, and somehow fate just gave the solution, dropped it at my doorstep. I've been blessed to have the right people around me, you guys, so that we can make things happen for different people, especially in this particular indigenous community. And I never expected it to be this big. It's only now looking back that you see that environment's a really big issue for people today, for the millennial generation. How indigenous people are a big part of the growing, I guess, pop culture in the city. What used to be backward by most educational standards is now becoming very cool.
Yeah.
I think, Reese, you see that in fashion as well.
Yes, definitely. I think people are, like, the new status symbol is becoming more meaningful and more purposeful and just caring more. Whereas before it's like not caring is cool. But it's completely different now.
But you're right.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Tribes and Treks. You work with the Yangel tribe in San Felipe, just outside San Felipe, Zambales. Tell our listeners just first of all a little bit about the trek, about what happens and what they get to do when they're on that trip.
Well, when you go on the trek, you get to hike a beautiful ancestral domain. So it's a valley. Sometimes there's water running down the river during the rainy season. During the summer season, it's just completely dry. So beautiful pictures. And then you get to ride a carabao if you're tired. We call them grab carabaos.
Is there an app for it too?
No, this one's manual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's pretty nice when you have a fleet of them.
Yeah.
And then you spend the morning planting trees in their ancestral domain because we don't have any more trees left in the country. Philippines only has 3% primary rainforest left. It used to be 70% 100 years ago.
Crazy.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
And it's causing a lot of problems agriculturally because there's no water and the heat's just spiking up. It's also causing problems in terms of where do people get charcoal now?
Yeah.
Because no one's planted. And it's also causing problems in terms of flooding because each tree absorbs about 2,000 liters of water in its root system. And if we have no trees, then here comes the water into our cities and towns. So we plant trees, and our goal is to plant about 3 million of them within the next 5 years.
Wow.
Into this 3,000 hectare ancestral domain. So guests spend their whole morning becoming a part of that. And then we move on to the best part, which is food. So you get to eat ube chips or purple yam chips, which they planted about a year ago and they're now selling really delicious chips. And then we proceed to serve you adobo, tinola, some fresh vegetables, fresh fruit in season.
Making
sometimes
me
it's
hungry.
papaya or sometimes it's mango. Yeah, you definitely should come. It's a 5-kilometer trek per way.
Wow.
Each way, 5 kilometers?
Yeah, apparently.
Wow.
It's longer than we thought.
Yeah, that's gonna scare some people off.
No, but
It
that's
just
why
scared
there's a
me
grab
a little
carabao.
bit. That's the grab carabao.
Yeah. Some of our guests just take the cart the whole way.
Yeah.
So it's
I would.
After lunch we have nap time because it's
Wow.
a tiring day. And then we wake you up at around 1:30 so that you can start singing and dancing with the tribe. So
Wow.
we have a dance instructor who's 72 years old and can't speak a bit of English or Filipino. She only speaks the local dialect called Sambal.
Yeah.
But she's terrific at teaching people how to dance. In fact, I feel like she moves her hips better than most millennials.
Yourself included.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I love it that's what you observed.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's so cool.
That's how they move it. And just on their dancing, it's interesting because they do one courtship dance,
Mm-hmm.
and then the kids do several dances mimicking different animals in nature. So they've got a dance that mimics monkeys or a whale or a fly or a frog. Just goes to show how in sync these people are with the environment. And so that's why when the environment's poor, they're also poor because they lose their cultural identity. These animals are no longer ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's why it's critical to restore it. No? And the interesting take on this whole tour is that to solve their poverty, to solve the poverty of the environment as well.
Yes.
Right? So that stewards can actually take care of something.
Yeah.
Because right now it's barely in. And I think that this tour, no, it started June 2016, and as of today, we're approaching about 1,000 guests already.
Wow.
I feel like it's something that we can really move in different provinces because the context is the same in many provinces around the country, where different environments just need people to start something.
Am I right, Raf, to say that vast majority of Filipinos have had very little exposure to indigenous cultures in the Philippines?
I think for people
Direct
living
exposure?
yes, living in the city,
Yeah.
definitely.
So,
For those living in the province, I'm sure they have direct exposure, but maybe the mindset isn't very appreciative yet.
right.
And so
Right.
they might just ignore that.
Okay. So most of our listeners probably are living in a city. What would you say, what surprises most of those 1,000 guests that have done tribes and treks and spent at least a day with the Yangel tribe? What would you say surprises them most about their experiences, about what they learned from the Aita?
I think something that surprises them the most is it's the happiness of the people there, because they definitely have almost nothing by a city standard.
Yeah.
And yet they're always laughing and smiling, and they're very generous. And then they're also quite surprised with how their culture is so entwined with nature. That one really makes people curious. And especially for myself, I remember offering money to help them. People refused money. The chieftain I was talking to refused money because he said he might spend it on cigarettes or coffee or load. So I was wondering why the guy without money refusing financial aid. He said, well, what I need are seeds, because look at this land. It's so big, but there's nothing planted. That's what we need. And so that experience really made me respect their culture a lot, because I thought it was very progressive of them to think that way despite the current situation. In a society that's driven mostly by money, finding authentic people like that is very rare. And I would put a premium on it, because these are the priceless experiences and people that you want to meet.
I think what you mentioned about they're progressive in thinking because they're thinking more long-term about their environment, how they're so connected to their environment. It's sometimes counterintuitive to what other people think of as progress. Like when you think of as progress, you think of a bigger house or like ability to buy more clothes or things like that, or like decisions that are just consumerism or money driven. But you mentioned that the progress in this case is not the same as how sometimes a lot of us think of as progress.
You're right.
It's really interesting.
It's not. In fact, I would liken their mindset of progress, which is in agriculture or forestry, more similar to entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Because it's not it's
immediate,
there instantly. You have to kind of grow it over time. So it's a good lesson. Definitely makes you very patient. And I think that there's a lot to learn from our end, because it helps us also discover our root as Filipinos, especially now that a lot of Western cultures flowing in online, and people tend to forget. For a majority of the Filipinos that come in, I feel like they're very inspired because they seem to pick up on strong community aspect as well. That's there, how people appreciate presence of others.
There's because exposure could always go both ways. It could either inspire people or make them feel something else. And I'm curious about the challenges that you have experienced when it comes to mindset, especially of people. I don't know if every single one who goes to this places would feel inspired afterwards. But like, what are the challenges, and why do you think these challenges exist?
I'll just start off with saying that managing guests is usually not the challenging part.
Okay.
We're very lucky to always get very nice and very patient guests.
Correct.
Rarely do we get a complaint. The challenge really is handling the community, working with them. Well, for one, we have a language barrier already, because I'm ashamed to say, but Tagalog's my secondary language.
Okay.
And Tagalog is also their secondary language.
Okay, so secondary language
So
is
when
the
we
secondary
talk,
language.
sometimes, you know, in Filipino, when people start saying, yung basta yung ganon.
Yes.
That happens so often, and I have to fill in the blanks with them. And I'm thinking, wow, this is going to take a while.
Yeah.
Can you just translate what you just said?
In English, the discussion is, do you remember the what? Just that what?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it sounds more ridiculous in English. It sounds like it makes a lot of sense in Filipino.
It
does.
But yeah, that's Filipino language for you guys.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, there's that, and sometimes they misunderstand. So I had to speak a lot slower. I had to improve Tagalog, and Explaining scientific concepts in Filipino is also quite challenging.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're trying to explain why this tree has to come first or why you have to plant this first. Because although the chieftain is very progressive in thinking, not everyone in the community shares the same perspective.
Yeah.
Because some of them are literally, are living day to day. Chieftain calls it nakakapit sa patalim.
Yeah.
Living off the edge of a knife.
Yeah.
They're so focused on just the day-to-day living that they're just they're doing charcoal or
like immediate stuff.
Yeah, just immediate stuff. No? And so it's hard to explain to one person why you need to give up your charcoal making for a day. Plant a tree that you'll harvest 5 years later.
Yes.
So how do you do that?
This is where like entrepreneurship really comes into play, because if the goal is their long-term sustainability through the environment, we use tourism as immediate response to monetary.
I think that's something that we take for granted, that our ability to think long-term is actually an advantage and like an asset that we usually forget about.
Mm-hmm.
But people who have to live on a day-to-day basis, it's hard to think about the long-term. So if you really think about it, it's a luxury for a lot of people.
One of the phrases, so I met you, Raf, I guess at the Enchanted Farm. Both of us, I guess, we were inspired to become social entrepreneurs through what we learned there and what we learned from Tony Maloto. And one of the phrases that we will have both heard many times is, doing good makes good business sense, right? So you went from selling pantyhose to becoming an entrepreneur, right? And you set up the Circle Hostel, which you now have a Circle Hostel, these kind of bamboo art deco hostels in Zambales, also in La Union and Bel Air. And you've gone from that to now getting involved in social tourism, right? Using enterprise to create social good. Do you agree with that phrase, that doing good makes good business sense? And how has your transition towards social tourism or doing social enterprise, how has that helped you to become a more successful entrepreneur?
I definitely agree with doing good makes good business sense.
Yeah.
The first example that comes to mind is that when you're doing good news, especially in the world today, everyone's so starved for good news, so it's easy to attract media attention.
Yep.
That's one.
Raf is on TV most weeks, which...
Yeah, we should get his autograph later. And then, photo.
And then there are a lot of other good-hearted people in the world that really want to help out.
Yeah.
Like Rappler came out with a study where 96% of millennials in the Philippines want purposeful and good with their lives. They just need a platform to do it.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's what this program. And then the other one is on a financial basis. Because the work of social entrepreneurship is, I guess, it rehabilitates usually people who society leaves out or ignores, or in this case, environments that are. The financial flow is definitely slower. I don't think there are overnight millionaires in social enterprise.
No. And I say that like while rolling my eyes. No.
It's impossible, no?
It's not,
But I mean, paired with the right people and the right attitude, I feel like it can create value. Because right now for us it is. And I haven't done the study in the Philippines, but I know that in France the social economy is growing twice as fast as the regular economy, because the world's just starting to shift towards this. And I feel like talent is going to shift towards social enterprise more than regular business. And so wherever talent goes, historically, that's where value is created. And so it's just a matter of time before we see multinational social enterprises popping up left. We may not be one of them, but I'm very optimistic that it's going to happen within our life.
So you've got Circle Hostel, and you've through the Circle Hostel, that's the basis for, or it's a start-off point for the tours, the Tribes and Treks tour to Zambales. What other plans do you have? How can we replicate what you're doing in Zambales? How can it be replicated either by Mad Travel or by anyone else out there that's listening and that is curious about, okay, how can we maximize the impact of tourism to connect communities being left behind? What sort of opportunities are out there?
Definitely tourism has that spread out well, create small economy, different communities where they would really appreciate it. So if anyone wants to replicate it, definitely it should be. Please establish a relationship with them. Check what their talents are. I mean, it's actually goes back to what the book you wrote, Genius of the Poor. No? Whenever we go into a village now, it's like, what are the talents of these people here? Everyone here has a certain genius, whether it's cooking, singing, dancing, playing an instrument.
Lots of singing.
Lots of singing. Eating.
Yes.
The 72-year-old Tita that can sway her hips better than most millennials. That's a genius in itself.
Yes.
Actually, she has a twin sister as well.
Wow, have you met her?
Yeah.
Wow. They could do the emoji dance.
They could.
That is,
Or they could model for Reese at some point.
Oh yeah, they should. That would be so cool.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just to replicate it, definitely listen, make friends with them, get their trust, and then listen to their needs, because sometimes they already know what. I think half the time they know what they need. Then it's your creativity to just insert different suggestions into there. And that might be able to help them and become sustainable for you in the process. Because I think tourism today is more experiential, so people want to do things. Doing what the community does is the in thing.
Raf, I'm curious because you're going to different tours, you're going to different places, you're on TV most of the time.
Oh, that's not true.
Yeah, okay. But like you meet with different people. What sort of disposition do you have? What kind of a personality do you think you have that's so conducive to what you're doing?
I'm genuinely interested in meeting people. Like I get a kick out of
That's so cool.
understanding how they live. So I think that's one definite advantage. And I like making friends. So
would you say you're an extrovert?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You are? Okay.
Energy comes from other people.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Always a positive influence, I'd say.
Yeah, so curiosity, definitely. Because I think you're very curious about other people. Like, the genuine curiosity shines through. So, and people love talking about what they do, their backgrounds, basically themselves.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it's good that you are so receptive to that information, that you're able to use it for, like, to create a community.
Yeah.
And that also reflects in how you've set up your businesses. So Mad Travel, there's obviously a group of us who are partnering together on that. We've got quite a growing team. Mm-hmm. The Circle was also set up. There were how many partners in the Circle when you started?
Just two, myself and my cousin Ziggy.
Okay.
And it was it was really his concept on like how to design everything.
Yeah.
And I love the idea that when you're at the beach, you leave your ego behind and you just sit on the floor and you're all friends.
Right.
And that's the whole point of creating that community, regardless of where you're from, whether you're from Manila or from abroad, or you're from here, or you're from the province or from the city, or even locals are welcome in. And I think it's that openness.
So how did you, because Mad Travel started out as a social enterprise, right? Whereas the Circle Hostel started out as a regular enterprise, passion project, which has become increasingly social in terms of its outlook, right, and in terms of the impact it's trying to have through the Tribes and Treks tour. How did that discussion go with Ziggy, your business partner, and also with the management team of the Circle at the time? How did you convince them to really grow the social impact or the purpose of the Circle Hostel?
It wasn't very difficult to convince them. They didn't really need convincing because everybody was game to do something or down to do something that was good for the community. We just had to make sure that it was also good for the business. And so social entrepreneurship became the one solution for it. We definitely didn't have it at the start, but the intent was there, and it reminded me of this discussion with Anna Meloto Wilt, because I asked her before, I think 5 years ago. I was asking her, Anna, how does a regular enterprise become a social enterprise in the end? Her answer was, well, as long as the guys on top have the intent, then you'll probably find that way, no?
Yes.
Right?
I super agree, yeah. I think it's all driven by your intention. You don't forget it until you can. Because sometimes you get swayed by, oh my gosh, profitability is so big. If I do something social, profitability will not be so big, but it will still be profitable, but not so big. So I think it goes down to your conviction and your intention in the end.
Yep. Yeah. And for our team, like everyone had it innately, and so once somebody starts something, they get excited, and I have another idea, and so it just spirals from there into something a lot bigger. That's why today we're doing other projects like the eco bricks. So we're trying to mitigate plastic trash in the ocean, and we're building with it a hostel. So today definitely everyone's on board with community and environment in a way that we never expected.
Like, to sort of almost wrap up, if you would go back to the Rafi who was selling pantyhose. Okay. Panty liners. Okay, yeah.
Did I say pantyhose?
That's why I thought it was pantyhose. But it's like, well, the same, like,
close
not
enough.
The same, close enough. It has the same word.
Yeah.
It has the same word on
something you don't want to sell.
Something that you cannot wear. Well, you can if you want to, but like going back to that guy who used to sell panty liners, what would you tell him? He's like thinking about doing all of these things. Would you say it's worth it? Will be your warnings, encouragements?
I would probably tell myself, bring a cap and sunblock.
Oh, wow. That's super practical. But yes, that's so true.
Actually, the only thing in my head is actually wish I started a bit sooner.
Yeah?
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun and it keeps me going.
Was there a period where you delayed that decision to become a social entrepreneur, where you felt a little bit sort of trapped in your previous job?
Definitely. There was a period of like almost a year. That's when we had our misadventure.
Ooh.
Misadventure.
Unfortunately, we're wrapping up the interview.
Yeah. We should have another episode just for that misadventure.
With drinks. No, just kidding.
Okay, now people are curious. But okay, we'll have to do another episode just on that misadventure. Like with a reenactment, please.
Okay. But yeah, just I guess for one last thing that I wanted to share with people listening is if you're feeling trapped in a certain situation, maybe financially or because you have to support someone or maybe because you're under contract, I guess my only 2 cents is there are a lot of ways for you to help.
Yeah.
Because we only work, if you're lucky, 8 hours a day.
Yes.
If you're unlucky, maybe 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
But still, it's only Monday to Friday. And at worst, you have at least one full day, either a whole Saturday or a full Sunday. And 8 hours on Saturday or Sunday is a lot of time to do something good. So, yeah.
Make that time count, huh?
Exactly.
Rather than just sitting around on your phone, or watching series on repeat.
Hey, that's true.
You can.
That's
There's
true.
a time and a place for that as well.
I do that too.
But as long as it's not dominating, there is time. You can really make that time off count. And so, what can people do if they're curious? You've been talking about, learning how to sway your hips, Aita style, and get involved in this big reforestation project in Zambales. How can people do that?
Well, if you guys want to come on the trek, it runs almost every Saturday. The meetup point is the Circle Hostel at 6:30 in the morning. I suggest you stay overnight. You can email madtravel at info@madtravel.org or you can email the Circle Hostel at zambales@thecirclehostel.com. Both will take in your reservation. Or if you can't come to the weekend but you still want to help, reforest the country, we have a program called Need for Seed, where basically we'd like to ask you to help us collect seeds which are trash in the city from restaurants or from your home, kitchens and hotels. Dry them and then drop them off in our office in Quezon City and we'll deliver them for free to the tribe or to whoever community needs it. We've got 3,000 hectares of land. Each hectare can take about 1,000 trees. So there's a lot of seeds needed. And take note, we're just looking for fruit, generally fruit trees or forest trees. So focus on mango, calamansi, papaya, avocado, rambutan, mangosteen, circuming. Yeah, just keep that in mind. It's something you can do easily and it won't cost you much.
Yeah, it's literally like leaving your mark in the world. Like the seeds that you have used go back to the earth and then come out as trees that future generations will enjoy.
Exactly.
That's great.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Raf. Now let's talk about that misadventure another time.
Yes.
Sorry.
Hey, thanks for listening. So you spent a good few minutes of your life listening to us. And we would love to hear from you too. We are always looking for inspiring stories of people who are doing good from where they are. So we would love it if you could share these stories with us. Send us a message through Facebook or Instagram. You can find us by searching for In Good Company Podcast on Facebook or at In Good Company PH on Instagram. This podcast is brought to you by Mad Travel, Rags to Riches, and Things That Matter. Hosted by me, Reese Fernandez-Ruiz, and Tom Graham. This podcast is edited by our awesome intern, Alini Pagulayan, with research and marketing done by Romano Santos, and music by Kevin MacLeod. And of course, this podcast will not be possible without you, our listeners and advocates. We are in good company with you.